You worked in so many areas of international education. As you note in your book, Spoken from the Heart, you mentioned launching the Africa Education Initiative in 2005. And for those of you who want to look, you can go look at the book, page 362, We Believe in Citations, you had put together an initiative which involved 6 countries, Ethiopia, Ghana, Senegal, Tanzania, South Africa, and Zambia, and worked with 6 minority-serving institutions in the United States: Alabama A&M, Chicago State, Elizabeth City State, Tougaloo College, South Carolina State, and the University of Texas at San Antonio. And in 2007, you talked about that work at the National Press Club. And as international educators, we too are interested in how we can work together on a more peaceful world and the role of international education. And I would be interested, why do you think international education is beneficial?
Well, I mean, all the reasons that you've just said. I think that the better we understand each other, the better off we'll be. And an international education gives you an opportunity to understand another culture, understand what other people are like, and have a chance to really reach out and be with people in a way that I think is beneficial for our country and then for all of them. That Africa Education Initiative worked with each one of those countries that worked on AEI were partnered with one of these mainly minority-serving universities in the U.S., and they worked together on it to develop their textbooks. They helped them write textbooks that would be like our good textbooks that we're lucky to have in the United States, but also that would be Africa-centric and that would work for what they wanted their children to learn, the curriculum that they would want their children to have. And it was very beneficial for each of those African countries, of course, but it was really beneficial for each of the universities that had the opportunity to travel to Africa, to visit schools in each one of the countries that were our AEI countries.
And today, the Bush Institute is developing several exchange programs, bringing young leaders from the Middle East, North Africa, and Burma, and North Korea to the Bush Institute. Can you tell us more about these programs?
Well, we've done 4 years worth of fellowships, 2 years with Egyptian women and 2 years with Tunisian women. We started with those 2 countries because they were the first in the Arab Spring movement. And what we do is invite women from both countries, one at a time. So it's all Egyptian women who have a chance to get to know each other and then go home and know each other and can introduce each other to their colleagues and to build a network like American women are fortunate enough to be able to build. So we've had 4 years of those. They're paired with an American woman who's in their same profession, and stay in contact with them for a year. So we've done that for 4 years. And this year we're going to have a class that will not be just from one country, but instead from all Northern African and Arab countries, one big group. So that's what we've been doing at the Bush Center, working to try to make sure that women have the opportunity to speak out and have the opportunity to be heard in each of these countries that were predominantly patriarchal.
Indeed, as First Lady, you fought for women's rights around the world in countries such as Afghanistan. In Spoken from the Heart, you talk about your travel to Afghanistan. Could you tell us a bit more about what inspired your work there and how your work in this area has continued since you left the White House?
Well, I think after September 11th, when the spotlight turned on Afghanistan, many American women were shocked, really. The idea of a country that forbid half of its population from being educated. Remember what it was like? Girls couldn't go to school. They couldn't walk outside. Women couldn't walk out unless they were escorted by a man, and many of them were widows in Afghanistan, of course. And after September 11th, when the spotlight turned to Afghanistan, I started hearing from a lot of women across our country who wanted to do things to help our Afghan sisters thousands of miles away. And several women, one woman who was a businesswoman, started a business. She looked around to see what Afghan women, what skills they had, and she discovered that many of them were weavers. So she started to weave a program where they could weave rugs. She sold them in the United States. I bought some for the White House. I have them now at the Bush Center in Dallas as well. Not the ones I bought for the White House. They're still at the White House. And then she required that they make sure their children were educated, that their children, boys and girls, were in school, and that they learned to read and write. And that's called ARZU, Project Hope. And that's what you can go online and look at that in case you want a rug by woven by an Afghan woman. But I also had a friend, one of my really good friends that I'd been friends with for all through college, and she called me and she said, you know, I used to be so glad I wasn't in your shoes. But she said, now when we look at Afghanistan, I wish I could help. And I think that's really how a lot of American women felt when we looked and saw the way women were treated there. So we founded the U.S. Afghan Women's Council. We just had a meeting of it last March, a year ago. Mrs. Ghani, the new First Lady of Afghanistan, is a member of it. Hillary Clinton's a member of it. And we, American women and Afghan women, meet together on the U.S. Afghan Women's Council to develop projects that we think will be beneficial for women in Afghanistan.